Hi, my name is Faisal Khalil, and today we are going to discuss the module number 6, which is very important module of security regarding AWS Cloud Practitioner Essential. So, what we are going to do, we are going to first discuss the theoretical concept in detail, then we'll perform it on the AWS console, that how you can do it in practice, real time, hand-on session. And after that, I will give you some possible question that could appear in the exam. So that's how we always do. So there are 4 other modules down the line. So this is module number 6. In total, there are 10 modules in this exam. So let's get started. This is very important, and there are a lot of questions. So this is favorite topic of examiner to ask question about, because on one hand it is important, of course, a security concern, and secondly it's a kind of a little bit confusing sometimes what is meant by role and policies and user and groups and action control list, and how you can differentiate these entities and when and how they are feasible. So that's why. Let's discuss them one by one with real life examples so that we could understand them. Before that, before the security, in this module, there is compliance and some additional security services are mentioned as well. Which means that what do you mean by share responsibility model is that for some things AWS is responsible, and there are some things you are the solely responsible for the security of your organization. All the infrastructure related stuff, like Amazon has its own server somewhere located, and they need to be secure. Electricity should be supplied continuously without any interruptions and stuff like that. And some other services, these are the responsibilities lies on the shoulder of AWS. And after you create the services and they're available, the rest of this stuff, like how you manage, how you give permission to your application, how you create a security groups, how you create a role to whom you assign them, these are the stuff comes under your responsibility. This is the raw understanding. The black box is telling you that all the networking, databases, and services and software and infrastructure based stuff, this is the responsibility of AWS. But on the top, when everything comes, this is comes to manage your services and make your services available to your customer. In between everything, that's your responsibility, and how you create this, how you do this, is the important for you. Well, great. So customer should create an instance, make firewalls, open security, account management, security groups, and application level stuff. This is what you do, and this is the physical stuff, and hardware level and virtualization and infrastructure level stuff need to be done by AWS. Very easy, no problem. Here's the shared responsibility model question. So which box related to whom? Configuring the security box, this is of course customer. Implementing the physical security, definitely physical data center you don't have access. AWS maintaining server that run AWS. So all maintaining all those server which runs on EC2, this is responsibility of AWS. Maintaining network infrastructure, AWS patching software on EC2. Customer setting permission, customer. Okay, great. This. Patching software, yeah, this is your responsibility. Setting permission of SW3 and stuff like that, this is your responsibility. Otherwise, infrastructure level related stuff is responsibility of AWS. So there is an important concept we'll discuss in detail, which is that IAM. So this is IAM basically. IAM is the identity management server, where you can create a user, you can create a group, you can create a roles, and you can create a policies. Now, this concept is kind of very important as well as a little bit confusing. So, what is the user actually? Let's discuss them one by one. So, for example, user is any user who could perform some stuff, right? So for example, are going to give the AWS account access to the junior developer, then senior developer, then other developer. This is the IT department needs the IMU. Then let's say you have another account and management like accounting and calculations and accounting and finance department. Sometimes they have to do some compliance issue or they need to upload some stuff on the S3. You need to give them access to them too, for example. And there is some people who just are responsible for monitoring this stuff. For example, network monitoring, how traffic is coming. For example, you can create another unit within the organization. And there is executive level people who want to get overall feeling that what's going on. You can give them another group, so to all the executives. And similarly, there could be marketing department which maybe analyze the traffic data and uploading some services, and some of the people are running some application and version of those application and then see how they work, some marketing tactics and XYZ. So of course, within any organization, there could be different departments, and within different departments, there's need to be different roles and different policies. So there actually comes the service-based security principle of the Amazon, that you can shrink some services to some people and you can allow and deny some services to some people. Okay, that's now clear. After that, AAM user is a simply, a user. And what is the group? It is very simple. You can club them or group them together. For example, if we take the example of the bakery, there is one group cashier, and maybe there are 10 cashier working in different shifts, and they have kind of similar roles and rights and what they can perform. So you can just group them together and you create a policy. Now, when we are first time discussing policy, let's discuss first that what is the policy. Policy is an entity-less document. What I mean by entity-less, it's not belongs to any specific user. So anybody who carries that pass could perform certain duties. For example, in the bakery or any cafe shop, you just allow some people to get the inventory, for example, breads and dough and other stuff, flour and kind of baking items from the warehouse. But in the warehouse, there is some person standing security in charge. So for him, you create a pass. On the pass, it's written the name of the bakery and written that the access has been given to the holder of this pass. When you carry that pass, that paper, the guard standing in the front door of the warehouse would allow you, because it knows that he has that policy with himself. Similar concept, the policy is such a document written in JSON form. I will shortly show you on the console. And if you can attach that policy to any role, it allows that services. And this policy is not only designed to attach to the user, you can attach them to any role actually, and any other stuff too. So that leads us toward role. So everything is interconnected here. So for example, role is nothing but a character. For example, you're saying you have created a role to getting item from the warehouse, right? We are taking the example that cashier or some people who bake the item on the bakery, they need to pick up some stuff from warehouse. And now you create a role. You create 3 roles. One role, the people who can get the items from the bakery for baking, like people who are working in the kitchen. Some people who are storing the stuff from the supply chain. When this stuff comes up and unload, they must have access to load and unload stuff. And third stuff is, for example, you can say the people who manage are working as a guard or working as a security personnel in the warehouse. So let's say we are taking the example of three kind of people in the bakery. Now what you do, so for time being, you set aside the IAM user and group. First, we need to talk about role and policy. Then we'll come back here. So because this group or this is user is pretty much when you just join that organization, that bakery, they give you a permission user, that your employee, and they give you employee card. This is something similar, that they give you account where you can perform certain services based on your designation, and they can group them for their ease. For example, they can create only first time uh, permission and stuff, and document and contract for all the people who are working as a cashier, and for all the people who are working for the manager, for all the people who are working for back office. So it is easy for any organization to manage, to write a contract and term and condition which is similar for everybody. Then don't need to change. That's how the group works, and I am user. But let's first understand here the role. So back to our example, we were discussing that we are taking the example that there are three different roles. We are calling them roles, or there are three different jobs. One, the kitchen people, everyone is employed. There's some people in the kitchen need to get an item from the warehouse. Some people who load and unload stuff into there. And some personnel is security. Now they created the different three roles. Now, for example, they attach some policy to that role, and that policy allow them what they can do and what they cannot do. For example, first role is the kitchen confectionery person who need to get access. You say that, okay, for example, this person can only get access to the shelves where the item for the baking are there stored, and he cannot essentially take anything and get out of the gate of the premises of the bakery or outside the bakery. And there are some item, for example, he cannot access any electrical, or he cannot pick up any other stuff. So this is something policy written on there for the role. You create a role, you attach that policy to role, and that role automatically now access or allow or deny some stuff. The second role is the people who are in the security, for example, and you mostly give them a lot of access. So for the back doors, for the private rooms, for the cameras, they can also view the footages. For example, outer area cameras, they can have access to the any premises, but there is a lot of things you can allow them. But essentially they cannot pick some stuff and get out of the premises, and they also cannot eat any edible stuff during the duty. For example, you set that policy and attach to the second rule. Now these two roles, one is for the baking person in the kitchen, one is the security, is significantly different. But what you do, you simply, for example, attach that policies, and then, for example, right, so we have now three roles. So person who's working in the bakery, person in the kitchen, in the security, and third is the loading unloading. Now you also allow him certain stuff. For example, he can only work in the specific hours when the trucks or the supply comes in or get out, and you can assign that, well, that person can only do that and that stuff. Fair enough, you have created different three roles. Now, for example, you have three different policy document. You have three different document policies here, right? And you have three documents written here: document number 1, policy number 2, and policy number 3. This is policy for kitchen. This is policy for security, and this is for loading. Okay, this is for loading, for example. Right. And you allow something and you don't allow something. You allow something, you don't allow something. You allow something, you don't allow something. For example, this is the security policies here. Whatever policy you attach to the role, so this policy you attach to a role, for example, this is a role, right? When you attach this policy to this role, he has certain permission to do. This role is kitchen person. Okay, this is kitchen person here. For example, now the thing is clear to you that policy is independent. You can attach to the anything. This is just a document that define what is allowed and what is denied. That's all. And this is independent or identity less. There is no identity written, there is no name written, there is no that this policy is designed specific for this customer. No, this is just document. You can attach, you can detach, you can attach this. Even you can just attach this and detach and attach to the security personnel, and then they have these rights. And similar here, loading. For example, now you need somebody like owner of the bakery, and owner need to perform some check. You just create another role, which is for example anybody owner or executive or exclusive check. You just name it another role. You simply like create another role here, and to this role you just attach 3 policy instead of 1. 1, 2, 3. You attach all the 3 policies here. Now he has power of all these 3 person, and he can do whatever written for all of this stuff written here. So that's how role and policy actually works. And even you can attach that role to any services. It is not necessarily any person or any account. You can attach this to any account to make it restricted or allowed. You can attach this role to any group. You can attach this role to any user. And role is based on policies. What you can do and cannot do is written in the policy. Then you name it a role, and this role is attachable to any person or even any service. For example, if we talk about Lambda service, very famous serverless computing service of AWS, if I attach this role here, it gives me permission. Now, without wasting any time, let me just tell you that what I mean in here. Yes, this is services, this is IAM, right? In the IAM you can create a user group. It is easy. You can name it, you can group, you can attach any other user. For example, you can define that what he could do or not do or whatever. You can give him some permission here, right? So specify that he can create a new user or not, right? So then comes a role here. For example, I create a role to give full access of my S3 bucket to the Lambda. For example, I am working with the Lambda to build a web application, and some of my data is stored on the S3. Now in this specific picture, this is not user, but this is a Amazon services which need to interact or call with or communicate with S3. Now I create a role. For example, I can say this is not account level, this is like services level. I here say a Lambda, I say next, and now there are some already pre-built managed by the Amazon policies. That's how policy look like in the real time. I will show you again in the more detail how it look like in the JSON. I search here Lambda, and here you can see Lambda full access slide. I click on it. Okay, when I click on it, this is something, a permission document created, which graphically allow a lot of services and a lot of other stuff as a role. Now, as you can see that to role, you need to attach a policies. And if I click here, this is the default version, and that's how real-time any policy look like. This is policy. This is nothing but policy. Policy version when it is created, right? So this is the version of the policy. It's always has version and then statement. Statement has two subdivision. Effect, it is allowed or denied, and action mean which service. These are all the services, EC2, KMS, IAMS policy. These are the services, and all the services to the Lambda. It give access to all the services AWS Lambda full access. So when I give this services to any stuff here, I can also say, for example, AWS S3. When I say S3, then this policy automatically gives access to the S3 in full. So when I attach this policy, for example, I create this policy, I can copy the JSON as well. And now you can say that I need to attach that policy to, or I can create a new policy here and I can attach that policy to my role actually. And when I attach that policy to my role, it appears in this list here, right? And then I can go to services and attach any role, for example, to Lambda services or anything else. So that is, hope so that this concept is clear to you. This is very important concept here. Role is just a character and policies are attached always to the role. And this role you can attach either to the user or any services. And user or group is self-explanatory. Then comes here something very important, organizational activity or AWS organization, which I have discussed similar, that you can just go to the organizations and you can create a big organization account in hierarchy. For example, this is root user, this is one account, management, HR, services, marketing, developer, IT, and you can assign any policy to them. And for assigning that policy, you rather need service control policies here. And service control policy is nothing but give you either full access or some access similar to the policy. And here you can define that to a new person, which policies I'm gonna give or which services I'm not gonna give. So it's very simply here. Once you create it, the JSON version is automatically generated. You can copy and you don't need to search from the list always. You can just paste the policy and you're good to go. Right, that's how IAM gives you access, roles, policies, and management. Let's back to the concept. This concept we have covered. So as you can see here, this IAM user best practice is always that you give only the permission which is needed. Don't give extra permission. Similar stuff we have discussed. How they look like, we have discussed. What is the group? We have discussed, like cashier, a number of different cashier. What the role does, yeah, we have discussed in detail what that means. Multi-factor authentication, you already know that things are protected by second layer of authentication, which could be any SMS or any authenticator key or any USB hard drive, whatever it is. So yeah, the organization unit, what I have shown you here, organization unit, this is the organization unit. And by unit, account 1, account 2, account 3, as I mentioned, marketing department, HR department, whatever department it is, you can group together, you can do. Service control policies, what I have shown you here, that you can give service control policies to give some access to the people. So yeah, organizational unit and an individual account member, you can attach these policies to even individual account or any unit. SAP, which allow or deny some sources to them, right? Then again, compliance is very important topic here. Compliance is nothing but an artifact service which could give you guidance for your regional based policies and stuff. For example, in Germany there is a Data Protection Act. You can go to the artifact and based on your server, based on your region you are using in the AWS, you can create different services. You can get help of those. What are the local government, what are the legal compliance stuff, and a lot of you can review them. You can generate a report based on them. You can share them on your services. And another source is the compliance, customer compliance. So with respect to dealing to customer, for example, if you're in the medical industry where this is highly regulated and required by the EU laws, that you must meet some certain standard to anonymize the data of your patient, for example, or people, for example, this kind of stuff. Then you can come here and you can audit and security check your stuff, and you come to conclusion that, well, there is a complete the service gives you a lot of stuff, which task can be done by artifacts, compliance related, on demand, compliance generated. It can generate for you on demand compliant report and as well assess your risk and management. So down the line in the security, then comes another very important stuff, which is AWS traffic security, or web security, or overall application level security. For example, you are giving some offering some web app to your customer. Definitely, customer data is coming in and out. For that purpose, there are different services provided by AWS. For example, firewall. WF is the firewall. It checks that which traffic is legitimate and which is not, and then it gives to the CloudFront content delivery service and loader and API gateway, right? API gateway is nothing but to manage your APIs when outside world want to talk to the AWS services with the API. One services which is not in AWS need to communicate to the service which is inside the AWS, and there's service which make that available, these endpoints and data it carries, called Amazon API gateway. With this gateway, your application infrastructure from the Amazon could leave the data and could get the data from outside world, and in API style, not in HTTP style, which is very handy and very good service. And then similar, what it does two things. It checks the custom rule if you made some rule to allow and deny APIs, and some managed, which is built in by AWS. Some are standard and some are advanced concept. DOS and DDoS is the kind of attack when attacker want to dump your service or crash your application where nobody can use it. There are different ways to do it. Single hacker can inject a script which flood your HTTP with a lot of requests, and resultantly your website is down or not available because it cannot handle that kind of load. Or he has created multiple bots, and this is distributed denial from different geographical location, and it is kind of a little bit hard for the services like AWS guard duty or firewall WAF to recognize that is it legitimate request from different areas and different people, or this is attack. And they use this trick to segregate that to make your service down. So yes, it has built-in shield, AWS shield for DDoS attack. On standard level, every AWS account has that without paying anything extra. But for the advanced level, you need to pay for more complex nature of the task. And AWS Inspector is a very beautiful service which can judge or which can technically analyze your service, your security, that how good your security, how best you manage the practices, and how vulnerable your service is. Overall, it's good, so very great, So the additional AWS key management services are widely known as KMS and Amazon Guard Duty. So key management services is nothing but encryption key with cryptography, like similar to the SSH public-private key or any sort of public-private key. When private key is stored by you, and you can give the pair of your public security to any services to encrypt, decrypt data. So this is highly controlled and very great stuff. When your You can even encrypt your data with KMS service with cryptography techniques. When it leaves, you can you can also create a keys which decrypt data at some level if needed. And yeah, so Amazon Guard Duty is something that literal meaning suggests that it is work like God, and these guards are continuously monitoring the web traffic all the time to see if something not malicious is happening for the services, or something is not bad. They do it like at internal service level, at external traffic level, and all those stuff they do. So yes, pretty much IAM grant service and temporary access with the roles, and this role can later on be deleted. Okay, and yeah, this is privilege concept. Least privileges that only give them the stuff which is needed. This is DDoS attack is specific shield stuff. KMS is specified to cryptography. And yes, thank you very much for watching. We are done for the security concept. When we'll discuss in next session monitoring, and down the line all other modules. We have performed some stuff on AWS console. You have seen all this stuff which is needed, so you can practice it and create some services, some dummy services to check everything. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.